991 days since the March 16, 2020 county health order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. So we're almost to that 1,000-day mark. Almost 3 years ago, I converted my weekly coffee shop office hours into these weekly live stream addresses. And, until my surgery, I hadn't missed a week since, but people still say they appreciate hearing from their mayor each week, whether or not they're watching it live or watching it time delayed. These weekly addresses allow me to give people some updates on what's happening in the city, answer some of your questions and just give you some general words of encouragement. So thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale. Most Fridays like today, I follow up this live stream address with in-person office hours like I've been doing for over 6 years now. I'll be at Bean's Scene on Murphy Avenue until 11:30 or noon today. So if you would like to meet with me, you can drop by if you have a quick question. But if you, the best thing to do is email me to reserve a 15-minute or 30-minute time slot, and conceivably every now and then I have an empty time slot the day of, but that seems to vary. And usually when the chair is empty, someone always seems to fill it. So it's actually great to meet with people from that standpoint, and, happy to be back in person, meeting so many of our residents and people that want to, have new ideas on getting things done in our city. I intermittently change my background art with art provided by artists from the Sunnyvale Art Club. Today's piece, of course, is Hot Pants by Andrea Coutura. I've had that for a while now, and I think it's been an interesting background for the last month or two. If you're interested in this piece or want to just be put in contact with the artist about others that they might have, just email me and I will put you in contact with that artist. Let's go ahead and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. It's been a little slow during the holiday season, which has been good for me because my shoulder, recovering from my shoulder surgery. But 2 Sundays ago was the grand opening of Pints of Joy. So it was great to see, a local business continue to expand in our city. Thanks to everyone who came out to celebrate with me and the owners. It was good to cut the ribbon, and one of my birthday gifts for my wife, of course, my birthday was 2 weeks ago. One of my birthday gifts was the mayor's scissors, as opposed to just using the chamber scissors. But it was good to celebrate, that new ice cream shop. It's in the location of the old Eric's Deli on El Camino, just east of Fair Oaks Avenue. So definitely go by and welcome them to their new location. Last Thursday, of course, was Thanksgiving. So I started the day I started the day at the Applied Materials Silicon Valley Turkey Trot. I normally run this every year whenever I'm in town. I walked it because of my shoulder and at least what the doctor was suggesting. I was tempted to run, but I don't think I'm there yet. But it was great to be back in person, see some friends, and just to be out. It's always a great way to burn some calories on Thanksgiving morning before you have the big Thanksgiving dinner. Last Saturday, of course, was Small Business Saturday. So, whenever you're shopping, please think about trying to shop local first whenever you can. Ultimately, we always declare that Saturday as Small Business Saturday. And earlier this month, we honored Waltz Cycles on Carroll Avenue, right there at Evelyn, for their Small Business Saturday contribution. They've been active in our city for over 30 years and happy to have them part of our small business community. And then last Saturday, I attended a holiday celebration at the Tetra Hotel on Java in Moffett Park. So they're actually, really trying to give back to the community. And have a free celebration for the next 3 weeks. It's every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. and there's holiday treats. You can basically make your own s'mores, cocktails, hot chocolate, live music, a live snow globe, snow, and a lot more. So definitely, if you get a chance, go visit the Tetra Hotel, and that runs Saturdays through December 17th. So, all free, and them just wanting to give back to the community, which is fantastic. Tuesday, of course, was Giving Tuesday. Hopefully you contributed to your favorite charity. For Giving Tuesday, Sunnyvale Community Services was having an open house of their new location because they hadn't had their auction and all that for multiple years now. And so they had their open house, they had their auction. One of the live auction items was dinner with the mayor. So my wife actually went to cooking school, and what we do is we have a pizza oven at our house, and she makes pizza for everyone, and we have appetizers and wine. And we did this before the pandemic. We did this back in 2019, the last in-person auction, and it was actually a big success. And so we ended up doing it again. Congratulations to the winners, and we're looking forward to having that. But it's always good to give back to Sunnyvale Community Services and all of our nonprofits that really make a difference within Sunnyvale. So congratulations to the winners. And if you're interested in mayor at the dinner at the mayor's house and seeing the mayor's house, our house was actually built in 1928. So coming up on a 100-year anniversary, that's part of having a tour is part of that event. So think about it for next year. And then on Tuesday evening, council met. So we started the evening with closed sessions to review our 2 direct reports. So council has only 2, the city attorney and the city manager, and the city attorney and city manager basically run the entire city. We set the levels of service, and then the city, and then they basically, the city manager runs the majority of the personnel, but the city attorney, of course, makes sure that we're meeting everything legally, does all the legal advice, and deals with all the lawsuits and everything else that's part of running a city. And then as far as our main meeting, we continued actually the proposal for amendments to the Downtown Specific Plan Block 20. So this was looking at the residential and commercial uses and other entitlements out on Block 20, which is the Macy's parking lot, half of which is currently for construction currently, but ultimately that we postponed that to a future date. We approved the arts and private development at City Line. So ultimately, part of Redwood Square is supposed to have a certain amount of additional art. What we did was do a temporary improvement of placing that artwork along McKinley right there at Matilda. And so ultimately, when Redwood Square finally opens, of course, then that artwork will be moved to that location. But at least for now, ultimately, we approved that artwork. It was kind of an interesting interesting artwork from a world-class artist. So happy to see that City Line is continuing to add the art, and part of that is the requirement that city has, but choosing some very interesting pieces of artwork, I think that will make kind of the City Line project, the downtown project, very interesting as far as that's concerned. We also did several things with boards and commissions on Tuesday night, one of which was we adopted a resolution to create a 5-person human relations commission. So this was part of our, council's strategic goal of equity, access, and inclusion. And so we'll be doing recruitment early next year for the creation of that commission. So, I think it's important to get a wider view of inputs and recommendations to council from this human relations commissions. And different cities have done different things as far as what their work is. We're still finalizing what their main work plan would be, but ultimately, there is a multicultural event every year. There's certain study issues that definitely need, let's say, human relations commission evaluation. And so that's one of the things. So creating that commission, I think, is really important from the long-term viability of our city. And then we actually dissolved the Board of Building Code Appeals. It's something that we continue to recruit for, and always having problems to fill it because they actually don't meet that often. We don't have many appeals. We've had like one or two in the last, so that commission had not met for 20 years. And when there had been a few possible appeals, that when they thought they might have to have it, ultimately the developer worked with staff and figured out how to that they actually didn't need to appeal. So if any appeals ever happen, it'll move to the council level, as opposed to having this commission that we constantly recruit for, trying to make sure that it's filled, and then no one actually does anything on it because we don't need to meet where there are no appeals. So, ultimately, I think it was important from that standpoint to make sure that we don't waste people's time, we don't waste time recruiting, and set improper expectations that this is a way to give back to the city. Thank you for those that have served on that commission in the past, but if you don't have any work, you don't feel, I don't think, needed. And I think that was an important thing. And then last night I attended the grand reopening of Rooster Teeth Feathers. It's great to see them reopen after so long. They closed just after the shelter in place, almost 142 weeks ago, as it is. But it was great to see the staff be there back in person. They've done lots of renovations inside, so it's all kind of new. And I, really enjoyed having some laughs, seeing some friends last night. We all need a little more laughter in our lives. I think I appreciate Heather and what Rooster Teeth Feathers has been doing for years in our city. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly COVID numbers. The COVID numbers across the nation continue to tick upward from a national standpoint. The CDC updated their numbers this week. We had about 600,000 new cases. So we're at 98.7 million cases. Nationally, we've had 225 million, more than 2/3 of our population fully vaccinated, and 49% have received the booster. More than 84% 5 and older have received at least one dose. So, and nationally, 78% of adults are fully vaccinated. As far as deaths, we do have, we still continue to have people passing away with COVID. We've had about 4,000 in the last 2 weeks. So we're at 1,077,000 nationally. And then as far as California, we've now reached 10,651,000 positive cases. We keep seeing our daily rate increase. We're now at 5,400 new cases a day. So that's up from 4,000 last week, 3,500 the week before that. We were, in the 2,000s or 3,000s last month. Or more than a month ago. And so definitely we're seeing lots of COVID cases, and we'll see how things fare after the holidays and everybody meeting in person and seeing family and friends that they haven't seen for a while. Our test case positivity rate is at 10% now. So 1 in 10 people that get tested are seen as positive positive with COVID. That being said, our hospitalization numbers haven't increased dramatically. Definitely, we've seen nationally, we've seen some issues in youth hospitalization, and that's not specifically to COVID, but that's COVID and RSV and flu. So, but definitely we've seen numbers COVID related as far as hospitalizations haven't been increasing greatly. And California has, has had about another 100 deaths in the last 2 weeks. Or in the last week, and we've now reached almost 97,000 people that have died with COVID within the state. From a county, our cumulative case count is now at about 447,000. It's up 3,000 in the last week. We've had no deaths in the county related to COVID in the last week, so we're still at 2,524 deaths. But from a vaccination standpoint, people who've done their part. They've more than 95% of those 18% or 18 and over are fully vaccinated, and over 70% of those that are eligible for the booster have actually received their booster. So thank you for doing your part to make sure that you're as healthy as you can be and ready to fight whatever variant is out there. I continue to spend lots of time advocating on our city's behalf, with talking to county health, talking to our county supervisors. Ultimately, as far as testing is concerned, if you need to get tested, you can go to sccfreetest.org. And if you need to get vaccinated or boosted, you can go to sccfreevax.org. Let's go ahead and move to some of the upcoming events, and lots of events happening right now. For those of you that are following the World Cup, the USA did move forward to the round of 16, so they will be playing at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And there will actually be several locations in the city that will be open early for that breakfast kickoff to the game. But I know a lot of people, become big soccer fans every 4 years, myself included. That's probably the time that I watch most of the games. And I think it's been actually interesting this year because it's happened during Thanksgiving. So what would normally be American football is now American football and soccer. And so this time of the season's actually made it a little interesting. From either the early morning games, morning games to, what it's normally in the summertime. So it's actually a little bit better. It's been better, at least for me, to be able to watch more of the games than I normally would have. Tomorrow afternoon from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Sunnyvale Community Center, there's an artist workshop. And one of the things that council approved earlier this year was art at the new amphitheater. So once the new city hall is done, the old city hall annex, when that's torn down, that will be an amphitheater, and there'll be art next to that. And the workshop tomorrow is to help the artists present some possible visions as far as what they want to see, but participants will be able to pose for a camera and then have a chance to have one of their silhouettes for Sunnyvale's art sculpture that will go into the new City Hall amphitheater. So you can also, while you're there, create your own silhouette figure to take home. So it should be kind of interesting. I'll try to drop by if I can. And then, of course, 3 to 5 p.m. tomorrow. And as I mentioned earlier, Tetra Hotel will be having their holiday event. So you can get into holiday spirit, make some s'mores, have some hot chocolate, hear some live music, see Mrs. Claus. And I think, it's a lot of fun as far as that's concerned. And then tomorrow night downtown, Murphy Avenue will be very busy. It'll be the 23rd annual holiday tree lighting. It happens the first Saturday, always the first Saturday in December. We'll be lighting the tree. We'll have dancers, we'll have choirs and carolers. Santa will be there, of course, and we'll also unveil the Sunnyvale Gingerbread Village. So, I've seen a few people's gingerbread creations. I visited the unveiling of one last night, but residents built their first Sunnyvale Gingerbread Village last year, and it was displayed at the library. Now we'll be doing the grand unveiling on Murphy Avenue, and then you have until the end of the day today to drop off your gingerbread house at the library if you're working on it, or if you want to do a last-minute entry. Now's your chance. But that will then be displayed at the library after tomorrow night until January 7th. So it'll go on display on Sunday at the library and then be on display until the 7th. And then tomorrow night also, after the majority of the events happen on Murphy Avenue, then everyone should be moving to the Caltrain station for the Caltrain holiday train. It'll be arriving at 7:30 p.m. and be there for 20 minutes. And so this is one of the Caltrain trains is all lit with holiday lights. There'll be snow and carolers and music. So, if you really want to get into the holiday spirit, tomorrow evening is your best chance. And then all weekend long at Fremont High School, there'll be a holiday craft fair. That's back for its 34th year. There'll be local vendors and clothing and jewelry, cosmetics, baked goods and more, and that's at the Mean Gym on Saturday from 10 to 4 and Sunday from 10 to 3. So if you're looking to purchase some holiday local holiday crafts or other items, that's a great place to go. And then as far as upcoming council meetings, council meeting on next Tuesday, the 6th, will finally be in person. So we've been doing remote meetings only for almost 3 years now. But although I normally take the meeting at the mayor's office in case there's technical difficulties, I can walk to the council chamber and talk to the city clerk. But we'll finally be moving to hybrid meetings, and so residents can be in person or at the council chambers. And if you need to get there, because Olive is closed, you need to go on Old American. Great America, All America Way, next to public safety. So off of Matilda, off of Olive. But, I think almost all, or possibly, and hopefully all of our council members will be there, depending upon last minute issues that might happen. And I know several residents that are already going to attend. So looking forward to next Tuesday's meeting. As far as the meeting itself, we'll be considering a revised cricket stadium proposal. So we kicked off a study issue about 1.5 years ago, and ultimately the group that is wanting to have a cricket stadium at Baylands Park has kind of reduced that to a cricket field, and we'll be giving feedback as far as that study issue is concerned. We'll also look at approving the city's response to the 2022 Santa Clara County Civil Grand Jury Report. And this is the one entitled, "If You Only Read the Ballot, You're Being Duped," mainly in response to what happened at the Valley Water District earlier this year when they, in June, at the June elections, when they basically misinformed the residents that they were limiting the number of terms to 4 terms when they were already term limited to 3 terms. So the wording of that was very misleading. And one of the things that the grand jury was wanting to do is implement a process where the DA or the county has some sort of referral as far as that's concerned to make sure that that whatever happens, whatever's put on the ballot actually has some review, and making sure that there's no misleading language as far as that's concerned. And then we'll finally be looking at adopting an ordinance regarding carrying concealed firearms in sensitive places. So this is something that a lot of cities have done. The state almost did it earlier this year, but came short of that emergency action by 2 votes. But we'll be conceivably in adding an ordinance to say that certain areas are not allowed for carrying concealed firearms. And then our last meeting of the year will be a week later on December 13th. We'll receive our comprehensive budget analysis for the last fiscal year. And it always takes about 6 months as far as that's concerned. And then we'll look at approving the year-end budget modifications. And let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. Laura asked, will Sunnyvale bring back the ice skating rink this year? So no, I'm afraid not this year. The ice rink is actually run and sponsored by City Line Sunnyvale. They find other sponsors as far as that's concerned, but they decided not to do it this year because of all the construction going on, but it's likely that we will have it next year. So depending upon where construction is downtown, where Redwood Square is, they're hoping to bring it back next year. And then Jackie asked, can you do captions for hard of hearing and deaf? So I can't do them live. So this is one of the issues as far as Facebook is concerned, or as far as Zoom is concerned. But I did check the videos that I upload to YouTube do have closed captions. So if anybody wants to watch, go back and watch the videos. So I've uploaded all the most recent videos to YouTube. Definitely. So if you know of anyone that's hearing impaired that wants to hear from their mayor, they can just go there and click on closed caption when they're replaying that video. And actually, I was surprised that even the videos on Facebook, after they've been uploaded, so after I finish this live stream and it goes to the mayor's Facebook stream or Facebook videos, there is the closed caption option there also. So you don't have it live, but as soon as it's there and processed, both Facebook and YouTube are doing auto processing to basically close caption that. So definitely for those that are hearing impaired, it's great to see that there is that option as far as that's concerned. Jim asked, the city arborist, I assume, decides on the types of street trees that are planted. On Sequoia Drive, there are broadleaf city trees that shed leaves that blow across the street and accumulate at the southwest corner of Reed and Sequoia on the storm drain, causing major flooding at that intersection. These trees create a hazardous situation during rainy weather. Could the city install a larger storm drain at that location? So I'll bring it up with staff. My guess is that they wouldn't change the storm drain just because of the type of the leaves. I'm hoping that, if that's a known area, my guess is city staff will go out and sweep as much as possible. But yeah, the street trees are chosen by the city arborist, and over time that continues to change depending upon who the arborist was in the past and what they thought was the best type of trees. We planted lots of liquid amber trees along many of the different neighborhoods years ago, mainly because they're great in the autumn, they're very colorful and all that. Of course, they drop these spiny balls, their seeds, and people trip on them and all that. And so we actually have a long-term project, although it was put on hold for several years, to replace all the liquid amber trees in the neighborhoods. But yes, they're having trees with big leaves, and there's a mixture of types of trees within our city. I'm happy that we're having those trees, but the leaves are always an issue especially during this time of year. When I'm sweeping the sidewalk and my front front lawn of leaves, I always try to make sure to remove the gutter trees leaves too. So whatever you do, try to please do your part. If you have room in your green waste bin, collecting the leaves, not just from your lawn, from the sidewalk, but from the gutter, makes it better in the long run and prevents flooding that Jim referred to. It's autumn, so yeah, another question about leaves. Dar asked, our street in Sunnyvale has too many leaves with big maple leaves, and the city needs to pick them up since the landscapers can't handle the volume. Please send out a crew, pick them up, or the sweeper, thanks. So the city sweeps all the streets weekly to pick up the leaves, basically to basically clean your sweep your streets on a weekly basis. Especially during this year, they're sucking up as many of those leaves that are on the public right of way as possible. So as many of them that are in the street that they can deal with. I know that I've seen them doing multiple passes in certain neighborhood streets over the last week, trying to collect all the different leaves that are falling, but it's never easy, especially during this time of year. If you can do your part as far as that's concerned to collect any leaves that are in the gutter, it does make it easier, and it goes into the green waste, which is better in the long run. Cynthia asked, will we ever get a Walmart in Sunnyvale? So not likely. We have Costco, we have, Target, which are very active. Ultimately, Walmart and a lot of the big box stores are not expanding. They're not creating a lot of new locations and sometimes closing older locations. We have Walmart Labs, which is actually the software division here in of Walmart, at least one of their divisions in our city. But the concept of actually creating that new big box is not very likely. Although you never know. We'll see. We always are reaching out to different companies to try to get them to come to Sunnyvale, not giving them any advantages, not giving them any tax breaks, but trying to have a diverse set of small, medium, and large businesses and having retail locations wherever we can. Sefi asked, happy Thanksgiving. Many residents in Sunnyvale would love to see some pickleball courts like in Mountain View, Palo Alto, San Jose, and other Bay Area cities. Is it possible that Sunnyvale will get a couple pickleball free courts for the Sunnyvale people? Currently, we're forced to drive to nearby cities to play. Thank you for considering. We do have pickleball courts at the tennis center. That being said, we're constantly evaluating the recreational needs of our city. We actually have a study issue that is going to be doing a more detailed evaluation of those mixed needs, including pickleball. I've had people come to my office hours talking to me about Frisbee golf and practice Frisbee golf sections. Cricket, of course, we're talking about the Baylands cricket field next Tuesday, but it's a mixture of all continuing to evaluate the ever-changing needs of what our residents would like to see in the city. So conceivably we'll be adding some, and we're always looking at adding new parks at the same time also. Katie asked, downtown Murphy Street used to run holiday lights across the street back and forth, just suggesting they do this year to add some ambiance now that there is outside seating. The white lights on Castor Street go back and forth. It's colored holiday lights across the street back and forth. So the Downtown Association worked several years ago to add lights on the trees as well as between the trees on both sides of the street to add additional lighting. I know I talked to the Downtown Association. There were some issues about height and possible fire equipment and other stuff going down the center of the street. So I'm not sure whether or not it could be done again. Ultimately, it will be something that should be brought up when we talk about the permanent closure for Murphy Avenue next year. So definitely write a letter to council. That's always a good thing to make those suggestions and keep that foremost in council's mind. Nick asked, thank you for doing this. I do have a question. Smoking in multi-tenant buildings is illegal now. My complex has habitual smokers smoking every day for years. Landlords will not react to resolve. Sunnyvale Neighborhood Protection say they can do nothing except audit for no smoking signs. So who is actually responsible and capable of enforcing smoking violations? So I checked with the city attorney. He is still looking at this. I need to check back with him, but neighborhood preservation is limited on what they can do. They can issue warnings, but there's the bigger question of actually seeing it, and this is seeing it happen. What the city attorney basically suggested was having neighborhood preservation talk closer with the landlord, because they should have clauses within their tenancy that says you can't be smoking in this area because of the common filtration system. You need to prevent the issues of secondhand smoke, and that's one of the reasons why council passed that law several years ago. Rivika asked previously, is Rooster Teeth Feathers still closed? As of last night, Rivika, happy to hear that Rooster Teeth Feathers is now reopened. It'll be open for the rest of December, and Heather is already planning for new comedians starting next year. So happy to see that back in Sunnyvale. I think that's all the questions that I have previously. Let's see if there's anything. Any new questions? No. Garrick Chan asked, why Walmart? I want Sears. Yeah, Sears especially isn't expanding, although they have decided that I think they are reopening a few new stores after closing lots of them. But yeah, we don't, we're constantly reach out, much like when Toys R Us closed. We and our director of economic development had been reaching out to REI for years prior to that, saying what a great place Sunnyvale is and what locations might be there. And REI ended up taking the old Toys R Us location. I actually reached out to the president of Toys R Us, trying to get them to reopen because they were doing limited reopening, although most of those reopenings I think are inside of Macy's stores now. So, it's trying to, say that we have a vibrant community, trying to basically show that, Sunnyvale is the heart of Silicon Valley, and it's well placed in relationship to a lot of different other cities. So getting those possible people purchasing, coming into Sunnyvale is always a positive thing. And just because we have a very active, number of people working here, living here, it's a mid-sized city, but lots of opportunity for either restaurants or businesses or retail, lots of activity within the city. So, always happy to see that. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. We're still in uncertain times, and new issues come up all the time, but I want you to know that no matter what challenges we face them together. I'm always proud to hear of how residents have responded to the challenges over the last few years, helping out, their fellow neighbor, their fellow man. I'm thankful, especially during the season of thanks, for how everyone shows kindness, their generosity, their empathy to other people in the community. So thank you for that. Your actions and your attitude really do make a difference. We're in this together, and we will get through this together. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful weekend. Hope to see you on Murphy Avenue tomorrow night. Goodbye.